Turn-based RPGs aren't exactly my cup of tea. In fact, the last one that I really enjoyed was the Thousand Year Door from the Paper Mario series, due in no small part to the rapid-fire delivery of the delightfully clever jokes and puns. While it may seem odd to draw a comparison between the family-friendly Paper Mario series and a game where you end up fighting the Nazi zombie aborted fetus of Khloe Kardashian, which I might add is most definitely not family-friendly, there's actually quite a link between the two games. As you've probably deduced or know already, South Park: The Stick of Truth is a turn-based RPG set in where else but the world of South Park. After having been announced and delayed a few times, The Stick of Truth was finally released in March 2014, nearly 6 full months after pre-orders opened in September of 2013. While the numerous delays and pushbacks of the release date of a game would normally indicate that said game has a lot of issues, that can't be said for The Stick of Truth, which appears to have benefited enormously from its delays and has become one of the best comedic/lighthearted RPGs I've had the pleasure of playing, and is a close second on my list of top casual RPGs after The Thousand Year Door. In The Stick of Truth, you play as the new kid, a child with a hidden past who has just moved to South Park into the house next to Butters, no less. Your job from the get-go is fairly straightforward: to go forth and make friends, play, and be a kid. Well, as much of a kid as you can be when you live in a place like South Park. After making friends with Butters, you'll quickly be drawn into a typical South Park episode, which is exactly what approximately half of the game feels like. The intimate involvement of Matt and Trey are obvious from the very opening scenes, as the cutscenes and dialogue sound, look, and feel just like an South Park episode or movie. That feeling only lives through approximately half of the game though, as it seems to up and vanish whenever you're engaged in battle sequences with the enemy, or engaged in some of the quests. This half-in, half-out feeling was jarring at first, though you soon settle into the rhythm and learn to enjoy the game regardless of what's going on. Paper Mario-esque key presses / QuickTime events are present during battle sequences, and while some of them are annoying, most require only the most basic practice to learn and repeat ad nauseum, which is exactly what you'll be doing. While there are a huge variety of attacks available to you and the character who you are either choose or are forced to go into battle with at your side, after testing all of them, you'll quickly fall into using only a small selection of them due to the overwhelming damage they incur. There's absolutely no reason when Butters is set as your buddy, for example, to choose anything for his attack except his Chaos attack, which turns him into Professor Chaos and, at worst, gives you and him both a 9-hit immunity from the enemy. This variety limitation applies not only to attacks, but to your buddy characters as well. For the entire game, unless I was forced to play with someone other than Butters, or I forgot to switch from another buddy to Butters before an attack started, I used his Chaos attack and won virtually every fight from the get-go. Now, the visuals are just what you'd expect. Crappy, aka good, and whether you're watching a cutscene or controlling your character, everything looks and feels just as crappy as the actual show. Audio work was spot on, with all major and minor characters voiced perfectly, and all of the sound effects and music being spot on to what I would expect. The sound of a fart emanating from Cartman's rear end and then being lit on fire was phenomenal to behold, as was the visceral sound of my Jew-class character's circumcision attack, designed to cause bleeding and cut down on the armor of the enemy. The controls did take a bit of time to get used to, as there were so many different commands and attacks loaded up onto a handful of buttons. Most of the time I got things right, but occasionally in the heat of the moment I didn't get the first hit in on an encounter, or I died because I was pulling out my alien anal probe instead of throwing a basketball at a target. This frustration wasn't enough to ruin my enjoyment of the game, but it was a minor annoyance that plagued my entire playthrough. Now, I've read reports of numerous bugs on both the PC and console releases of the game, and while I had issues with the user interface, which frankly is a total and complete mess, but you don't have to look at it all that often, I didn't run into any game-breaking bugs after 22 hours of play. So, what does the Stick of Truth have in common with Paper Mario? In the end, the Stick of Truth feels like an adult version of Paper Mario. Delightfully humorous, absurdly fun, and something that you'll have trouble tearing yourself away from once it's time to go to work. Despite the jarring feeling of being pulled in and out of an episode of South Park, the game is as close to an actual episode as you'll get. Matt and Trey's close work on the game shows in every detail, and for fans of both South Park and of humorous, casual RPGs, the Stick of Truth is a no-brainer must-buy. While some have been concerned about the length of the game, I didn't feel that it was all that short. I completed a decent number of side quests and the main quest in 22 hours, and while that's nowhere near what you'll get from something like Skyrim, there was so much humor and fun packed into the Stick of Truth that it could have taken me half as long, and I still would feel like my money was very well spent. I'm Mike, and this is Game Night with Mike. Thanks for watching, and I'll be back again soon.